Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Tonight we have a really fun live stream for you because Philip found us a great article to discuss.
Yep.
And hi, I think,
Hello,
oh,
everyone.
there's a bunch of people in here. So, can can everybody see and hear us okay? We've been messing
Yeah,
around
how's
with
the sound?
Streamlabs for like a half an hour. Does everything sound good? Yes,
Jan
thank
said
you.
yes.
Thank you, Jan. We may need your help because we're
Cool.
going to be doing the share screen thing again. Uh, Philip needs to be louder. All right, hang on. Philip, turn up yours a little bit, and I will also up you a little bit in here, maybe?
Yeah, that might work. Just a second.
Is that better?
Maybe that made me a little louder. I'm still gonna crank mine up a little.
Okay,
How's
that's
that?
better.
Okay, good.
Is that better? The Jan said it was better. Okay.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, so let's say hi to everybody real quick so that we can get into. Oh, perfect. So hi, Elise. Hi, Jan. Thank you for being here. And hi, Angela and Katrina and John. Hi, Joanna,
Yeah, nice to see all of you guys.
Cassidy and Jeannie. Oh, nice to see you. Hi, Hope. Um, hello, Mistress Angelica. Let me see who else. Hi, Morg. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Eric. Wow, there's a lot of people in here. You guys,
Antichrist Superstar, hello.
hi, is Warlock still here? It's nice to see you.
Thank
And
you, Morg, for the super chat, and thank you, Corvus Ventorum, for becoming a wavelet. We
oh,
appreciate that,
thank
becoming a
you.
member.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you, Morg. And hi, Angela. You've been a member for a month. Awesome. And yeah, it's good to see you guys. Antichrist Superstar. Hi. Wow. Okay. This is wonderful. I think this is going to be a really kind of fun and interesting live stream because we have an article which I'm going to share, and you're going to have to just bear with me because it's been a while since I did the share thing, and we've just been fighting with it for a while. So just getting everything settled in there. We first just preemptively thank you to anybody who's a member or becomes a member. Thank you, Cassidy. I got this. Yeah.
or or who likes and subscribes.
Yes.
We appreciate that.
Yes. Liking and subscribing is awesome. Just being here is great. We really appreciate it. It's so nice to see you guys. And we are planning on having a members only after this, but as you guys already know, we're pretty casual, and we'll just decide when to go in there, and I'll quickly put up the live stream and then share the link on our community board on YouTube. Oh, thank you for gifting a membership. And
Thanks,
it's,
Jan. That's cool
yeah,
of you.
thank you. And
And Mia got it.
Mia got it. And I didn't know there was a Mia in here. So congratulations. Um, all right. So why don't we share this article and we can start talking about it because there's kind of a lot of fun stuff, interesting things to
Yeah.
talk about it.
It's not
So
really a very long article, but there's a lot of stuff that we want to extrapolate from that.
yeah. So all right. Here's the thing. I have to do this. And I think the first thing I have to do is go over to. I have to do it. I have to walk myself through it out loud. So I think the first thing I have to do is go over to Zoom and share my screen. So I'm sharing the sound. I'm sharing. I don't know which one to share.
You can do this, Susan.
Thank you. I think I want to call the. I think I want to call the article up first. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go over here.
Hi, Laura. Nice to see you. And Genie Bottle.
Um, okay, so this is the article that I'm going to share. So I'm sharing this, but now I need to run over here. I know it looks really weird probably, but I want to share the screen capture. And and this is where oh, there we go. No, but now I have to get out of here. If I leave here and go back over to here, can you guys see the
Now
article?
yep, now we can see
Because
the
I'm
article.
looking at the article. And if I'm looking at the article, hopefully you guys are. Okay, the other thing is I would like to, here, let me just make that bigger. And I had the chat over on the right side, but I think it's better.
Jan says you need a second monitor.
I know, but you know what? I don't have a really big area here, but we'll talk about it, Jan. You can, yeah, you can help me with that. All right.
Hi, Elise and Melinda. Thank you for coming in.
So I can't see the chat while we're doing this because I've lost it somewhere. So whatever. I'm going to leave Philip up to being able to talk to you guys. So what I'm going to do here, I think you guys, I'm going to move us down here. Hopefully you guys can see what this article is. And before Philip starts talking, I'm going to say this is from Big Think, and it is from like over a year ago, but it seems so appropriate. It is not, doesn't look like an article that you have to subscribe to get, because neither one of us are subscribed. I don't think. I might have been, but I don't think you have to pay to see this, so I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think the subscribe is just there if you want to, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a free article.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it is on Big Think, and if you want to go over and check them out, you can. And this article that Philip found is pretty cool. Uh-oh, I gotta move this again, or let me put us over here so that you can read along. And it's kind of cool because there's parallels between 100 years ago and now. So why don't you read that, and then we'll talk about the things that we wanted to talk about.
Okay, so there was just a few key takeaways. So it says the original Roaring Twenties is eerily similar to events today. The 1918 flu pandemic ran well into 1920, triggering a severe US recession that lasted through summer 1921. One analyst believes we are now ready for a wave of spectacular economic growth without the equivalent of another Great Depression on the horizon. This is thanks to myriad new opportunities that are being unleashed because of cloud computing. So it kind of seems strange that we're talking about something that happened so long ago, but like what Susan said, there's a lot of parallels between that time and kind of modern times. So we're going to kind of draw upon that. And if you notice from our thumbnail and the title of the video, we're talking about which way are we going, and we're kind of discussing which way we're going as a society. And so there's a lot of turmoil that kind of happened not only in the 1920s, but there's a lot of horrible stuff going on in the world today. And so we kind of have a fork in the road where we can either be prosperous, or if we can have catastrophe. So we kind of want to look at the parallels between those two events of those centuries. So if you look at the 1920s, there's a lot of different examples of overcoming. So people definitely had a lot of struggle that they had to overcome. One example is women gained the right to vote. So I think it was in 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified, which allowed anybody to vote no matter what your sex was. So there was a lot of things that people overcame. There was a lot of new advancements in technology. There was new vehicles, there was new jobs, all kinds of stuff like that. People became more culturally vibrant, and you saw that a lot in music and the expression of the culture with, the flappers. Women became more expressive. They cut their hair a lot shorter than they used to. So there was a lot of things that people overcame in that time period. But it's important to say that that time period in the 1920s was far from perfect. There was still a lot of injustices and a lot of racism and stuff. And we're going to kind of draw on that a little bit later. But as we go through the article, you'll kind of see that there's a lot of parallels between the two centuries that are kind of important to highlight.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add in that when I read articles like this now, which are talking about the past, I have become acutely aware that we see through the lens of basically the white European history. And
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and this was only something that that's really come to the front in the last year or two through very, very good work by many people who are bringing this to light, that the history we've been taught was not full history, certainly very, very skewed. So as soon as I started reading this, and I think of the Roaring Twenties, and especially the women, because you tend to think of that first. Like you said, Philip, where they cut their hair and they've got to wear
Yeah.
shorter dresses and they're expressing a lot more freedom. And then you realize, but wait a minute, that's not the whole picture. There was a
Right.
lot of rampant racism. Just, it's same as today, uh, but they don't talk about that unless you go specifically to a part of history that's talking about that. It seems that we
And I think also it's important to point out that the 1920s was a huge era for racial propaganda, especially because jazz music was becoming a lot more popular. There was a lot of racist jazz propaganda against Black people of color musicians,
Mhm.
So even though we're talking about great advancements in freedom for women to be able to vote, at that time in the 1920s, Blacks were still unable to vote.
And I just told this to you. I don't want to yesterday, but I don't want to go off too much on this. This could be something for another day. But it wasn't until like a year ago or so that I found out that Susan B. Anthony, who many women think of as a hero in terms of women's rights, not so great, because she specifically excluded Black women. She did not include women. Did not mean all women.
Yeah.
Women meant white women. And that was an eye opener. And yet, that's not something that was taught. I found this out through the work of people who are now fairly recently really trying to spread this information. It was not something that you'd see well, certainly it's because of social media. Now we get a lot more information. But if left to just like the school systems, that was not something that they taught. So anyway, I don't want to take over too much of the actual article on that, but I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move this
Well, I
down.
think the broader point that we're trying to make is in the 1920s, there was a huge lack of inclusivity. And so when you parallel that to today in the 2020s, you still do see a lack of inclusivity and an attack on diversity. And that's kind of where we're going to lead in this article. So I don't know if anybody happened to notice our change to our channel name. We were the Hyperion Source, and now we are the Neogenian Oculus. And in the Neogenian system, we definitely want to be inclusive and celebrate diversity. It definitely encompasses everyone. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on, but we're really excited about the channel change. You may have noticed that our profile picture changed to the golden eye, and we still have a lot of work to do. We've just made the change, but that's exciting for us. So hopefully you guys like that change. But I think we're going to go ahead and continue with the article if that's all right.
Do you want to just start reading?
Okay. Yeah, so it says on New Year's Eve of 2019, revelers gathered around the globe to ring in a new decade. Many jubilantly attended Roaring Twenties parties adorned in elegant evening wear. I think that's clock and Panama hats. And knickerbockers.
I think it's cloche.
Oh, cloche, okay. And Panama hats and knickerbockers harkening back to an exciting, culturally vibrant era of economic prosperity. But whatever veiled hopes partygoers had for a booming future soon met jarring realities: a once in a century pandemic, global lockdowns, an economic recession, and widespread civil unrest stemming from an incident of police brutality. The roaring 2020s were not to be, it seemed. So, just a couple other notes. A lot of that stuff that happened, you know, in the 2020s in modern times also happened in the 1920s. They were coming out of the 1918 Spanish flu. They had a lot of civil unrest back then as well. So we're seeing a lot of parallels, and definitely with the police brutality. But wasn't your husband telling you a story about the pandemic of the 1918
Yeah,
time?
he actually just mentioned it yesterday or the day before, and it had nothing to do with this. He was just talking about pandemics in general, and just happened to bring it up, and I said, "Oh, we're actually talking about this tonight." at our on our live stream. But yeah, he just brought up how horrible it was 100 years ago.
Yeah, and it's crazy how they sometimes say that history repeats. And so I suppose we're looking to the past to also look to the future. We're seeing the parallels in the past, but we're also thinking about where we want to go as a society. And of course, some things like pandemics you can't control, that kind of thing pops up every now and again, but we can focus on being inclusive and celebrating diversity and gaining freedoms for people to create you know a society of quality that benefits everybody. And that's kind of what the point of a teleocracy is. We want to create a purpose driven society that benefits everybody and focuses on quality of life and not just financial gain or things like that. So I'm just going to continue with the article. Before I read this next paragraph, I just want to say I'm going to read about this fellow Mark P. Mills. He's a physicist. I just want to say that it's going to mention his book, and I want to make it clear that Susan and I have not read his book. We're referencing it in this article. It's kind of interesting, but we can't say that we support his work or anything like that. It's just
and he's not the author of this article.
Right.
The author is talking about him.
So it says, take heart. Mark P. Mills, a physicist, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, faculty fellow at Northwestern University, and a partner in Montrose Lane, an energy tech venture fund, is out to rekindle our collectively dashed hopes. In his new book, The Cloud Revolution, How the Convergence of New Technologies Will Unleash the Next Economic Boom and a Roaring 2020s, Mills convincingly argues with verve, vitality, and most importantly, evidence that humanity is about to take a great step forward in the coming decade. And unlike the first Roaring Twenties, these won't need to end with a Great Depression. So in the next paragraph, it kind of extrapolates on some of that stuff that he talks about. So in the opening pages, Mills reminds us that the original Roaring Twenties didn't start off so auspiciously either. In fact, separated by a century, our situation seems eerily similar. The 1918 flu pandemic ran well into 1920, triggering a severe U.S. recession that lasted through summer 1921. Violent riots and political instability were also prevalent. Yet from this pit of public despair, Americans pulled themselves out. Propelled by remarkable advancements in mass production, medicine, electrification, communications via telephone and radio, movies, automobiles, and aviation, the United States saw its GDP rise by an astounding 43% between 1921 and 1929. So again, a lot of that stuff we're seeing in modern times in the 2020s, especially the violent riots and political instability. We've seen a lot of that, and we're only in 2023. So, like I said, the stuff with the flu pandemic, that sort of stuff you can't control. But in terms of the violent riots and political instability, it kind of highlights some things in our society that we need to take a look at in order to become a purpose-driven society, a teleocracy that is focused on quality of life.
Well said. And I'm just going to scroll down for you to. I don't want to go too fast if you're still talking
that's
about
all right.
that. Okay.
So if anybody wants to read that book, feel free. Like I said, Susan and I have not read it. It sounds interesting. I probably would read it, but just take it with a grain of salt that we don't support or we don't know anything.
Yeah. I'm not endorsing him.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
it's not an endorsement, but if you're curious, feel free. So it says, we're now in store for a similar wave of growth, Mills says. What comes next will likely be more consequential than the comparable technological flourishing that began in the 1920s. We will again see a boost to the economy's productivity, which always increases overall wealth. The rising tide does lift all boats. The future will repeat a central pattern of the past. The 25% in the near future will live like the 5% today, and the future 5% will live like today's 1%, and so on. So there was just something about that paragraph that Susan and I wanted to comment comment on. We
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that those numbers are correct. And really, we don't think that there's a need for a 1% at all. There should
Yeah.
not be a hoarding of wealth, and, technology should benefit everyone. But that was kind of an important note that we wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, the rising tide does lift all boats. I mean, I think it lifts some boats.
Yeah, it sounds nice if that were
It,
the case, but
yeah,
I don't think that is the
yeah.
case.
I think, and I think it's going to go into the next paragraph is probably going to go into a lot of the different technological areas. There's already now a huge boom, and there's going to it's just growing so fast. There is going to be a lot of opportunities. So it sounds really good, like everybody can get in on that and take part in that. But you have to be prepared for certain people to kind of,
Swoop in.
yeah, and take over, and they'll make tons of money on it. So I mean, I
And that
think,
kind of reminds me, sorry not to interrupt, but what we were talking about the other day, a lot of times in the technological field, when you see advancements in technology, one example that I want to throw out there is the Neuralink brain chip that Elon Musk is putting out there. And, Elon Musk is this tech mogul. Everybody recognizes his name. He has Tesla and all these big companies, but really he just kind of slaps his name on there and takes credit when really in the back rooms, there is probably large groups of developers and people that are working on microprocessors and things that are really technologically advanced that probably don't get the credit that they deserve. That's just one example. There's all different kinds of examples of technology that it's definitely a collective effort, and sometimes people come in and slap their brand on there and say this is my product, just something to keep in mind. So I'm going to continue. The key driver of this collective boom will be the cloud, Mills says, along with the knowledge and technologies it spawns. The most basic definition of this nebulous term is software and services run on computer servers in data centers accessed via the internet. But the cloud is much more than just Netflix, Google Drive, and Apple iCloud. It democratizes technology as never before, connecting everyone and everything, allowing unprecedented gathering and splicing of information. Cloud data centers, the new tech era's digital cathedrals, as Mills calls them, now occupy vastly more space than skyscrapers, formerly the hubs for for business and innovation. The most powerful cloud supercomputers are now 3 million times more powerful than the top machine of 1990, and they already fuel the discovery of new materials and medicines, as well as powering machine-centered manufacturing. When I first read this article and I read that where it says the most powerful cloud supercomputers are now 3 million times more powerful than
yeah,
the top machine of
yeah,
1990,
it's
that's within
mind-boggling.
our lifetime. And it
Yeah,
is mind boggling to think, I can remember that time period of how limited computers were, everything that we had available to us compared to now where we have a supercomputer in our pocket basically in the form of a smartphone. And it makes you wonder where that technology will advance to. And I think that's what this guy is kind of saying, that there's going to be a lot of technological advancements that really propel society in a good direction.
yeah, and I think going back to the rising tide lifting all boats thing, I think probably one of the ideas associated with that would be that there's going to be so much opportunity for people to innovate in those areas. Now, how successful one would be given competition and the capitalist system, where it's very easy to for somebody who has more power to pretty much stomp on smaller people. That can cause a lot of inequity in that. But I think that what he means, one of the things he meant was there will be so many different ideas that people will have to be able to come up with now. It's just going to be, I don't think we can really grasp what's coming. I don't
I
even,
think I think it's also important that you mentioned capitalism, because just going back to the title of today's video of which way are we headed, meaning catastrophe or prosperity, when we look at all these different technologies and we're looking at the way that we're going, a big argument and a big topic of conversation, that goes along with this is AI, and we're going to get into that here shortly. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But when you mentioned capitalism, it made me think that there's really two ways that society can go. It can go the way of teleocracy, which is definitely something that benefits everybody and really emphasizes quality of life, or it can go in the direction of capitalism, which really kind of uh, snuffs the quality of life and makes people a slave to the system, and does
Yeah.
not benefit everybody.
One of the most important aspects here, and I know we say it all the time, but in order to actually understand why you would choose teleocracy over capitalism is education. There's so
Yeah.
many people don't understand why capitalism is bad, for one thing. uh, they might say, well, it's not the greatest thing, but it's the best thing out there, because they have no idea that there are better options, and a lot of that is through fear-driven propaganda.
Yeah.
um, and they are only familiar with the kinds of systems, the kinds of things that are already out there. Maybe they haven't been tried fully, but the kinds of like socialism, the strategies people have. Sorry, this is really distracting me. I'm going to go back up.
Oh,
Uh,
that's all right.
yeah, but nobody has actually come out and explained what a better system would be, the best system would be, which is,
Right.
so they're just not familiar. It's sort of like the situation between trying to figure out what's happening on us, like what people would say, a spiritual basis. They either figure there's atheism or there's like the God from the Bible. Like
Hmm.
a lot of people think those are the two options. So you're just picking one or the other, or you're in the I don't know agnostic area, and they have no
Yeah.
idea that there are better options. They just think that there's only those two. So I kind of think that it's really important. We can't overstate education and getting the information out there, because before any kind of system is going to be um, uh, put out there and built, you need to have an understanding of who we are, what we are, why we're here, which is what we do. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to elevate people's consciousness and understanding, and that's why hyper. Uh, oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Um,
One thing that I wanted to add in that you were
I'm
saying about the education, though,
yeah,
when we're talking about a teleocracy and we're talking about the quality of life, that does include education, but it also includes, healthcare
yeah,
and mental health
yeah. I'm
and all of these different things. It's easy just to say, quality of life, but that includes all of those different things.
yeah,
And in a capitalistic society, a lot of those things are not. Um, Definitely not available to everybody. If you look at insurance that denies you on all different sorts of
yeah.
healthcare claims, capitalism, the dollar is God, basically.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got distracted by something on my computer. Hyper awareness. That's why hyper awareness is so important. That I just wanted to finish my sentence, and it makes me so nervous having the computer sharing the screen. I
Yeah,
always think I'm going to screw something up, um, but and I really would like to go and see comments, and I can't do it. I have to actually look
that's all right.
on the
Just
phone.
really
So
quick, there's a fellow that just came in named Richard. Says, I'm new here. Welcome, Richard. I see you're asking about the Kardashev scale. That's not really quite something I'm familiar with, but welcome. Glad you're here, and I hope you enjoy our live stream. And hello to everybody else that hopped in. Um,
hi, Richard. Yeah, and thanks, Angela. I'm glad everybody can still see and hear everything, right? I can't check the back screen because if I do, I take all of you with me. So I feel really like I'm just flying blind here, and it drives me a little bit. I don't know how. Oh, I do know how Jan does it. Jan has more than one monitor. I don't. So,
And also, hello, Melinda. I don't know if I said hi to you coming
oh,
in.
did Melinda come in? Hi, Melinda. Hi to anybody that came in, by the way. Um, yeah, can you tell us what that scale is, Richard? I'd be interested in knowing. Um, okay.
Do you want to continue?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We're
I
gonna.
know in these next couple paragraphs, it's going to get into some really interesting tech stuff. So I'll go ahead and continue. It says the cloud, Mills argues, brings together the three foundational spheres for technological revolution: the means for gathering and propagating information, the means or machines of production, and the class of materials available to do everything. So Mills offers copious examples of recent advancements in these three spheres. He lists numerous discoveries currently relegated to esoteric academic journals. Any of these innovations could profoundly affect our everyday lives soon without us really noticing. Those effects take center stage in the final section of Mill's book. The arenas of work, health, education, entertainment, and science will all profoundly change in the near future, he writes. Services and manufacturing will be robotified, but doomsday predictions of mass unemployment will not happen. Luddites who fret that more efficient machines will replace them in their jobs have always been wrong. Efficiency doesn't eliminate jobs in the long term, it drives growth. The reason productivity expands wealth is that it's the only means for liberating human time, the most precious commodity in the universe. I love that.
Me
And
too.
that's what Mills writes. When humans have more free time, they educate themselves, innovate, and create new industries, such as, for example, entertainment industries and cloud based gaming or the metaverse. Moreover, the cloud will enable more people around the world to obtain more education.
Um, we're going to stop and talk about this for a little bit because uh, there's a lot in here. And it reminds me of a story and a conversation that I had with two of my friends. It was a couple years ago, and it's absolutely appropriate to this. Um, how people are afraid and have always people are afraid of change, and they tend to think when something comes along that's people say will improve their lives, they really stick their heels in and say that's not going to be good. And one of the things is that people worry about machines replacing them. And it always brings me back to my toll booth collector job, which I just feel so bad for those people who do that. I can't imagine that somebody has to do that.
Day.
I can't, yeah, that is such a waste. Those people deserve better. They deserve to do something better with their lives. It's ludicrous to think that job was invented to keep somebody busy doing that. And when it absolutely, it's so stupid. And what he says here about the most precious commodity in the universe is our time is absolutely right. And I think coincidentally, this is something that Morg just talked about in their live stream, either the last one or the one before, where they talked about the importance of freeing up our time. And actually, I've heard not too long ago people talking about a shorter work week or shorter, hours, and it should.
I think we talked about that in a live stream too, didn't we?
I think we have, yeah. But this example that I have of actually talking to friends who were upset. They mentioned they were upset because the local Walmart had put in the self-checkout, which, if you know, they're in all over the place now, but they have a bunch of those.
I kind of like them.
I do too. they're good if you're not buying that much stuff. They need to have them where you have more room for to be able to do a larger shopping. But there's only one person who's kind of watching to see if there's problems anywhere. And they were upset. My friends were upset at the fact that it was taking jobs away from people. And I started to say, that kind of technology is not a bad thing. Having people do that for their job is a waste of that person. And what I'm not saying, and I didn't even get a chance to really defend my argument when they both kind of jumped on me. They were so upset because what they assumed I was saying was, let's take jobs away from people who are basically only able to do jobs. In fact, one of my friends said, I have to have a job like that. It was for various reasons that I'm not going to go into, but I also don't believe that that's the case, that somebody has to have a job like that. If that's what society offers, society's not doing the right thing. I'm going to get on my soapbox, but I think people's lives are worth more than that.
We're definitely not saying that people shouldn't have jobs or that everything should be roboticized. It's just definitely to increase the amount of time that people have, which, as it says in the article, is the most precious commodity in the universe.
And I'm not saying that we should, what I wasn't saying, and they completely missed, well, I didn't get the chance because they got so upset that I just had to shut it down, just like change the subject. But I wasn't saying, hey, you should lose your job, and then whatever happens to you trying to find another job that you're able to do, that's your problem, because the rest of us want these checkouts. I wasn't saying that at all. I would never take someone's livelihood away, someone's income that they need to live on. I want to change society so that people don't have to do those kinds of jobs, so that they wouldn't even have to start off being worried about having their needs met. People should have their needs met and then have opportunities to do whatever is within their scope of ability and desire to do, and have whatever it takes available for people. And what he says here is in terms of innovation, right? When humans have more free time, they educate themselves, innovate, and create new industries. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be what every person would do, but it would certainly open it up for a lot of people if they didn't have to do whatever menial job they had when they could do so much more. Anyway, I just had to stop and say that because it was so important to me, and I was so frustrated not being able to get that point across. I not only my friend who I was talking to, but anybody that I talked to that did jobs like that, I want better for them. They should be able to have better for themselves.
Right. Just before we move on, and thank you for sharing that story, Susan.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I see Elise did a quick search for that Kardashev scale that was mentioned in the chat. And Elise said, a quick search says it's a method of measuring a civilization's level of technological advancement based on the amount of energy it's able to use. I think now that you say that, Elise, that does sound a little bit more familiar to me, but I'm still not well read on that.
Oh, also, Jeannie, I'm looking. I have to look at my phone for comments. So Jeannie said, how much power a society needs in any age. And then Richard said, I believe it is a scale that measures a society's use of power. So, okay, but then there's been more discussion about this. And you guys have been having so good comments in here. So,
Jan says capitalism makes things really difficult right now, and it definitely does in a lot of different ways. And so I think especially when we're talking about freeing up people's time to be able to spend that time on their quality of life, giving themselves education, creating new things, and, focusing on purpose rather than just profit for people that take all of the money. I think society would definitely change for the better. And I see that Elise said, if it goes hand in hand with other societal improvements like UBI and universal medical care and rent, food, and water restructured to provide for all, that would be the perfect example of a society that really focuses on the quality of life for everybody and encompasses everybody.
Yeah, what is it that Morg had said, which is just something it's really important to keep in mind? We need to thrive and not just survive,
Yeah,
right? We want to create a world where we're thriving and not just surviving. And a lot of the stuff that I was talking about was people who are just surviving. And there's how could you possibly tap into whatever potential you have if all of your energy is spent just living, maybe barely keeping a roof over your head, barely having enough food, if enough at all. So yeah, we this is and this information again is why we keep talking about this. We talk about it in many different formats, but that's why this is so important,
yeah,
because the world that we want to create, which we need other people to understand the importance of, and not just to think, oh well, the capitalist system that we have, there's nothing we can do about it, or it's the best we have. They don't see the value in people that make it worth doing. I think that's one of our biggest challenges, actually, is uh, having people realize that we are a collective, and other people who are ultimately just other aspects of ourselves are as important as we are. And it's I'm on the soapbox again, but the North American, especially the US, that philosophy of every man for himself, every person for themselves, or just my family comes first, I do everything for my family, that's the most important thing, and not seeing the whole village, the entire society being as important. And something that I just ran into, and this goes back to what I said in the beginning about a lot of articles that we read, news that we come across, comes through a very European white filter, is I ran into something just a couple of days ago, and it was again something that takes me by surprise, and immediately I say, why is that surprising? I should have known that. I feel like I should know these things, and that is that there were societies, our societies, that did consider the collective. They just weren't European capitalist and American society. We tend to just think of that's the highest you can go. That's the pinnacle, and everything else is kind of primitive, not important. And then you start to realize all of the problems inherent in what we have. Okay, I'm talking too much, aren't I?
No, you're fine. We love your soapboxes.
Okay. Anyway,
We do.
Yeah. Every time I run into something like that, I think this is an entire subject for a live stream. But anyway, I'm just throwing that in there. Jeannie said, everyone has a skill to help society as a whole in return for others. I heartily agree. I think there's always going to be stuff that people that are not the most desirable thing to do, that we like. It's like in your own life. It's like your own life is a microcosm. There's things we don't like to do, like, I don't know, balancing your checkbook or something, or cleaning up the dishes. But we have to do those things. You have to clean your room. You can't just garden if that's the thing you like. You can't just watch TV. You have to do those things. And the same with the society. There'll always be things that we have to do, and however we work out getting those things done. Again, oh, I'm on the damn so. Is this okay? Are you sure it's okay if I'm just
Oh yeah, it's fine.
okay? Um, but however we decide in the society to handle those things, it needs to be handled fairly, obviously, but where people have a chance, and there will always be people who say, I don't want to do anything much, so I will
Mhm.
do this to contribute to society. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to think that those people are any less important. They're maybe just not at the level of growth that other people are, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We want to provide whatever it takes for and offer opportunities. That's the big thing, how much we're losing by not allowing that to happen, when there are people who definitely would be contributing a lot more. Think of all the people who are living in poverty, or just scraping by, or are in some kind of lifestyle that is not productive, simply because they have learned helplessness, but they're smart, and they want, perhaps when they were younger, wanted to do stuff, and then were hit in the face with reality of what society is actually like, that did not promote their growth, because it was busy promoting the rich elite. So I think that if given the opportunity, many people would prefer creating to just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah. Or slaving away at work.
Yeah, I think
But
I think people I think it's natural to want to do something, to make something, to be something. I think that a lot of it is just depression, realizing that no matter what you do, you're not that idea of America, you can make your dream happen, is so false. I mean, yes, there are stories of people who came from nothing, and built themselves up, but that is absolutely not every person who wanted to do it. Or that idea of just keep trying, because Colonel Sanders, I don't know how many times he tried to sell his thing. Well, that also has a lot of false connections to it, because there's people who try and try and try, but the system is not in their favor. So it doesn't really matter how many times. But there's always that story that someone will say, uh, to try to get you to think that, oh, it's okay, society's okay, you just need to try harder. And yeah, that it's good to have things that are uplifting and motivating, but you also have to have a system that's going to be equitable. So okay,
yeah,
I'll
you have to realize that something's broken in the system that we have
yes,
now.
yes,
But
massively.
I think the article does sum up a little bit well, and kind of ties into what we're saying. If you'd like to scroll
Yes,
just a
okay,
little
are we
bit,
ready to
and
move on?
I'll continue.
Okay.
So at the same time, big data stored and analyzed in the cloud, going back to the technological side of things, will lead to new breakthroughs in health and science. Research that once took months or years in fields like medicine and material science can now be done in mere hours or days with AI algorithms available via cloud supercomputing. We do, in fact, live in a time of a new normal, Mills writes, but instead of our future being one of perennial slow growth and technological stagnation, it will be just the opposite. What could get in the way of this optimistic view? What could spiral a new roaring 20s down into a great or a second Great Depression? Mills sees China and climate change as the biggest dangers, primarily because they are linked with thinking, business practices, and government policies that encourage controlling or even limiting growth and innovation. Whether societies ultimately prosper by taking advantage of what technology offers depends on having a culture that encourages free thinking and risk taking, and it depends on a government that allows markets to operate even when some outcomes are less than ideal, Mills writes. The Cloud Revolution is indeed a liberating book. Mills succeeds in infusing readers with a refreshing, evidence based optimism for the future. Here's to the new Roaring Twenties. And again, we haven't read that book, so we can't say that it's
Yeah.
a liberating book and all that. But when he's talking about the AI algorithms available via cloud supercomputing, I think we're going to see a huge boom in um, the availability of AI to aid us in all of these different fields of work. You can use AI to do all sorts of things from create art to write. I've even seen people making new AI songs where they're using the voices of musicians who are no longer living and creating new songs with that person's voice because the AI learns their inflections and their vocal tones and stuff. So there's a huge argument when it comes to AI about whether it will be positive for us or whether it will be something that could potentially be dangerous. You see that argument quite a lot. Personally, I think that it will definitely aid in all of these different fields like science and medicine, exactly like what this article is talking about. I think there's just so many uses for it that people aren't really even yet familiar of all the possibilities of where it could lead. And I know Morg's done a couple videos on AI if you want to check those out. But basically, what we're talking about is a society that encompasses a quality of life for everyone that doesn't involve quite so much work. And that, like what we said before, that doesn't mean we don't want people to have jobs, but if we can make things easier for us so that we can focus on the prosperity and being a purpose-driven society or a teleocracy, that would just be all for the better. And if we can use AI to do that, I think that's great.
I actually used AI to do the thumbnail for today's live
I
stream.
remember you saying that, and you
Yeah.
showed me a couple of your options that it made
Yep.
for you.
Yeah, I was showing Philip the different thing. It was interesting. I've played with it before, but this was a different program that I used last night because I could not find like a ideal future society. Everything was very sort of science fictiony looking, and I wanted something that was like had more greenery to it. I didn't want it to look like that Star Wars um city with all of the really tall buildings, and there was like no grass. There was no
Yeah.
trees. And that was really interesting. I want to play with more AI graphics and hope to get to use more of them. I think that's a great tool, frankly.
I see
um
that Jan says, "Oh yeah, that's a mixed feel." I assume you're talking about the AI side of things. I definitely know that a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, especially when it comes to the music. I know I've showed you guys some of those AI songs, and some people definitely could say that it hurts the music industry. But to me, I kind of think of it like auto tune. When auto tune came out, a lot of people said that's cheating. They're not really singing. That's not their real voice and stuff, but really it's just kind of a tool to help them sound a different way, and not everybody has to use it. But I think it would be really cool if you could have an entire orchestral composition created out of AI that's just kind of pulled from the ether of technology and information, if you will. I think there's a lot of cool things that you can do with AI, but it definitely is something that people feel uneasy about. And I see Elise says they're cool AI tool advancements, but uh, would like it if they could focus on AI automation for more labor involved tasks too. And that
yeah.
is definitely something that would benefit people.
Yeah. Richard, I see that this is a little different, not on AI, but you said that you like Richard D. Wolf. Is that Professor Wolf? Is that his name? He talks about socialism a lot. Is that the same guy? Because I love him, and I have watched several of his. Yes, I've watched several of his. I can't recommend him enough to anybody who wants to know more about socialism in a very easy to understand history. I highly recommend him. You can find him on YouTube, and I've watched several of his videos and then watched interviews with him. I really I admire him. I respect him a lot. Actually, he's really good. Um, oh, hi, Ontology Dragon. Yeah. So he's really easy to listen to. He imparts information in a way that is very user friendly. Heartily agree. I like him a lot. I recommend listening to him. But back there was more AI stuff going on, and I know that way up. I'm sure it's no longer on my phone. But Jeannie, didn't you say something earlier about not being a fan of a lot of the new technology and innovations and things, or was that somebody else? Somebody said absolutely would not get a brain chip for any reason, and I'll tell you, or whoever said that, um, uh, yeah, you're not. That's Joanna said I'm not getting into Tesla. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't follow the cars,
Yeah.
but
Just really quick, before we kind of get to the end of our stream today,
oh, good grief,
there's
yeah.
just one last thing that I want to point out from the article. Something really big towards the end. I know we're talking about which way are we going, towards catastrophe or prosperity. Another really big point that I want to make is about the climate change. So I know it mentioned in the article that Mills considers China and climate change as the biggest dangers to
Hmm.
humanity. And so I think it's also important to emphasize, even though we're talking about all these advancements in technology and creating a better society, we also need to take care of our planet, the animals, and each other, so that we have a planet to live on. So I think climate change is definitely a huge part of this
Yes.
discussion. When we're talking about being prosperous, we
Yeah.
also need to take care of the world that we live in.
Yeah, I think when we say collective, I know we often mean like people, but remember we are all zetas, like all,
Yeah.
like and we need this planet. If we don't have it, we're gonna have to go and live somewhere else. So we have to take care of it. Okay, Jeannie. Yeah, Jan and Jeannie both said you don't want to chip and not never be the same. Okay, so I'm just gonna say something really quick because I didn't realize our time was already up, but um, I want more information on that because I think it depends on what kind. I really haven't learned a lot about it, but in terms of doing a brain implant of some sort, my husband has Parkinson's, and it's pretty nasty for him right now. Uh, and I know that a lot of Parkinson's patients who, this is not Neuralink at all, but it's an implant that Parkinson's patients can have. It disrupts an area that's causing problems, I think, and it is one of the best, most successful uh, interventions for the shaking that Parkinson's patients have. And I, if he came up as a candidate for it, I would definitely encourage him to have that. And I've heard of several people who it was life changing for. So the idea of although it's very scary, but to have something implanted with the proper studies, I think it could be incredibly beneficial. I know it sounds super scary, like it's going to blow up your brain or cause you to go crazy or turn you into a different person. I'm not saying that there aren't scary parts to it, with like especially with the Neuralink, but imagine if you were paralyzed, what that could do for you. What if
Yeah.
you were blind and it could bring you sight? I think you would look at it differently. I'm not trying to convince you personally, you guys, so Jeannie and Jan, specifically. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to say I look at the technology a little bit with a little bit more optimism and hope for good things that it could do. I know there's been things in the past, I'm sure, medical things that people said, oh, I would never do that. That's scary. And yet, probably like contact lenses or cataract surgery or things like that seem very scary, but are now so, common and very helpful for people. So I just wanted to say that I'm not saying that everybody needs to run out and have that done.
Yeah, but that's a great scenario to be open-minded for. And I did want to add, while you were saying that, Susan, thank you, Lee, for the super chat, and thank you for joining us. I didn't
Hi,
see you
Lee.
before, but it's nice to see you. I love your Bravo sticker, so
Hi,
hopefully
Lee.
you have enjoyed what you've seen. And Elise, thank you for
Thank you.
gifting a membership. And I see Antichrist Superstar got that
Got that.
membership,
Thank
so
you. And
wonderful.
again, thank you guys. If you haven't liked, thanks, Richard. I'm so glad you're going to be back. Please follow our Facebook page because that's where I post when we're going live. We usually do a live once a month. We try to do it on the last Saturday of every month, but Philip has a rotating work schedule and isn't always available. So he wasn't available last week, which is why we're doing it this week.
Yeah, I think the next couple months we're going to do the live stream at the start of the month.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just hang on to doing it the first one. But yeah, it was great that you were here, Richard.
And also Lee says, I was driving downstate back home, so I've been watching the whole time. Philip, you were amazing. And Susan, you made awesome points.
Thanks.
Glad to hear from you. That little heart thing on my phone is in the way.
Too. Yes.
I can't move it. I wish they would allow you to move it.
I love that feature, but yeah. I think you can hide it. I think you can hide it. Yeah. Hide. No, that's hide users. I don't want to hide any users.
Yeah. Before we go, just thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully you liked the article. Again, that's on Big Think. And if you want to, you can subscribe. You don't have to. It's a free article, but we just wanted to mention that just in case. And thank you for everybody who sent super chats, all of your really great comments. You guys put a lot of great comments in today, and hopefully you kind of liked the topic that we had for you. And we are going to have the members only, supporters only live stream after this. If you want to join us for that, we'll probably just have a little pee and drink break before we go in there.
Yeah, we will. And it's probably going to just be a casual and, I don't know where Mark is. Mark must be busy tonight. That's one of our other moderators. And yeah, but hopefully everybody who can will hop in. Just check the YouTube community board, and I'll put up the link for you guys. I wish it could be daily. We're our lives are so crazy. Mine is bananas right now. I live with my mother here. My husband and I live with my mother, and it's just a lot of constant things. And hopefully it's going to calm down, and maybe we can go live twice a month. We love doing it. It's just trying to find time, and especially with Philip's work schedule as well. But thank you all for coming out. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you again, everybody. Really, hi Tyler. There was so many people that just hopped in. Hi Kelly. People that I didn't. Oh, Laura. Flower Dragon, thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys' support.
Good night, Melinda.
It's nice to see you guys.
Yeah, good night, you guys. And yeah, we'll see whoever's gonna pop in. We'll see you in a few minutes. So I'm gonna stop sharing this. And oh, phew, I hate sharing. Now I can go back to Streamlabs. No, I have to stop that and just go to Zoom. There we go. Okay. I think it's us. I think we're here. I don't know. Hopefully it looks good. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to end the stream, and
see you in a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple minutes. Bye, everyone.